Israel celebrates its 70th anniversary as a modern nation in a few weeks, but the Bible says its story began thousands of years ago when God brought the Jews out of Egypt and into the Promised Land. However, some Christians believe the Jews living in Israel today have no connection to biblical Israel and are simply a modern invention. Joining us now is Robert Benny, professor of religion and philosophy at Roanoke College. You've encountered this ideology firsthand. How did you find out about it, and who's promoting it?
Well, I found out about it many years ago by reading people who thought the Jews were an invented people, but I was not acquainted with it in recent days until I went to a conference. I was invited to a conference to speak on religious conflict at a new institute at St. Olaf College in Minnesota. And at that conference, I heard a Palestinian Lutheran pastor give out that kind of argument that was really quite shocking to me. He, of course, was a Palestinian partisan and had a kind of not only a negative attitude toward Israel, but what was more disturbing to me is his view of contemporary Jews, particularly observant Jews.
What's your response to the idea that Jews are a modern-day invention and that Jesus really was Palestinian?
Oh, I think it's hokum. It's not true at all that Jesus was a Jewish Jew born in Bethlehem, and that there's been a continuity in Judaism since way before Jesus' time. And Jesus, of course, was embedded in that story of the children of Israel. And, of course, the early church was branched off from that great tree of Israel, and it continues to the present day. But I'm not so nearly as much interested in the biological connection. It seems to me it's the religious connection that we Christians really care about. The biological thing is very scary because that's the kind of argument the Nazis used to. I'm told that a good deal of the Nazi leadership thought they were Christians, but not a one of them thought that Jesus was a Jew. They thought that Jesus was the son of a Roman soldier, and therefore there was a kind of a racial purity involved in Jesus that, of course, the church always claimed that Jesus was a Jew. So it's a scary and creepy kind of biologism that you got going there. I think the much more important thing is the religious continuity of the children of Israel, the covenanted people of Israel. By the way, the calling of Israel doesn't begin with Moses. It goes back to Abraham, as you know.
Indeed, indeed. Let's expand the conversation a bit. What is replacement theology, and why do you believe it is dangerous?
Well, replacement theology is basically the idea that after the bulk of Jews refused Jesus, that the covenant then was broken with the Jews, and the church replaces Israel as a covenanted people, beloved people of God. And the harshest kinds of replacement theology or supersessionism kind of argues that, well, since the Jews not only refused Jesus but crucified him, well, we kind of do God a favor by punishing them. And of course, that took its most extreme form in the Nazi movement. So it's very much connected with a kind of a harsh supersessionism, replacement theology, that the covenant is no longer stand with the Jews, and therefore we can turn our backs on them and forget about them.
If the popularity increases for this, how do you believe it will affect the relationship between Christians and Jews?
Well, I think that I'm not sure how extensive this is spreading. I think that it's a kind of a concerted effort by Palestinians to weaken American connection with Israel, to support of Israel. And one of the best ways to do that is to get Christians to give less support to Israel. It's kind of a political move. That's why I called the title of my article Political Supersessionism. So Christians, particularly evangelicals and fundamentalists, have been the strongest supporters of Israel as a country and the covenanted people of Israel who live under the canopy of the state of Israel. They've been the strongest supporters, and this is kind of a concerted attempt to go after them and weaken the the support for Israel, but even more disturbingly, disconnect Christianity from Israel, from its Jewish roots.
And as you say that, so what do you suggest Christian leaders do as they encounter this ideology?
Well, after I heard this disturbing speech at St. Olaf and saw how I did some research at how extensive his impact was, way out of proportion to his own size, that I kind of resolved to start teaching in Sunday schools and other kinds of venues, several books that emphasize the connection between Judaism and Israel, and also, as a side effect, gain support for the state of Israel. So I've taught in Baptist churches, and I'm going to teach this spring St. John Lutheran Church across the valley, and there are going to be a lot of people interested in it because our churches send a lot of people to trips on Israel, and they're very much supporters of the state of Israel, but even more so supporters of the Jewish people, and particularly the Messianic Jews that are emerging in Israel. You, of course, know what a Messianic Jew is, right?
Absolutely. Well, Robert,
there's 15,000 Messianic Jews in Israel now. Mm-hmm. And of course, Messianic Jews have a really hard time because Orthodox Jews despise them and Christians don't understand them. So they are really in a tough spot, but they're still growing, and they're growing in America. Very interesting phenomenon.
Beautiful. Robert Benny, thank you so much for your time. He's a professor of religion and philosophy at Roanoke College. Thank you for the work. Thank you for bringing this to light for those who don't know. God bless you.
You're welcome. Thank you.